Data tables are not one of my favorite functions. Um, you could do everything that data tables do for you with formulas and functions, and I think that's a much easier way to do stuff. But let me show you what data tables are, just so you're aware of them and you know how to work with them. And I'll also maybe show you some of their pitfalls as we work on them. So basically, here's Excel's definition of a data table, but I think it's easier to understand what a data table is just to kind of see it in action. So we've got a one variable data table here. And over on the right, we've got instructions kind of about how you create a data table. And then here is just sort of exactly what they do. So let's say we have a loan and we want to know what our payment's going to be based upon different interest rates. So it will look at all these interest rates and it'll calculate different payments for us. Another example, that's a one variable data table. Another example of a data table would be a two variable data table, where here again we have the same loan, and based upon a certain amount and a certain interest rate, could we calculate all the different payments and have those fill in right there. So again, this is something you could do with formulas and functions, but so I'm not a big fan of data tables at all. But let's see how to create one. So this is what we're shooting for. Here it is without any information filled in. This is the value you want to change. You place it right here in the left column. You could also do it in a row if you want. But if you use the column method, you then come over here and you place your formula right there to the right of that value. So I'm going to insert the payment formula, financial payment. It's going to ask me for my rate. My rate is right there, and that's an annual interest rate. So I'm going to divide that by 12. Or we're doing this on a monthly basis, and that's annual up there, so I divide by 12. My number of periods is going to be multiplied by 12 since we're working monthly. The present value, it's a loan, so it's a negative amount to me. And the future value is 0. So there's the first amount. And then I just highlight that data right there. I go to data, and I go to what if analysis, data table, and it asks me for my column input cell. So my column input cell, like what was the number that I input there to get that? It was that number, right? Which is going to correspond to the variable I want changed in the column. It's not totally intuitive, but I hit that and then boom, I've got it. So I could do that with the data table, but the thing that's weird about that is once you create a data table, like let's say I want to like delete all of that, and it says you can't delete this. They're impossible to get rid of, I've found, once you've created a data table. So that's one reason I don't like them. And then two, they're just funky. You got to remember, I put it here, I do this, I got to remember that. It's just kind of weird. The easier way, for me at least, that I create it is just put the formula all the way down. So if I had this payment function, and my rate is going to be that reference, and it's absolute, divided by 12, so I put the dollar signs around it. The number of periods is going to be that, absolute again, times 12. Present value is going to be that, absolute again, and the future value is going to be this, 0. And I actually want my interest rate to change. So this one here, I'm going to get that out of there, and I'm going to say that's my interest rate, divided by 12. So it's going to hold the number of periods, E5, right there, constant, right? It's going to keep referencing that. And it's going to hold the present value, E3, that one constant. But E12 here is going to be constant. It's going to be relative. So as I move this down, it'll keep looking to the left. So there we go. And then I could just copy that. Let me get this out of the way here. Copy this down. And there we go, it fills it all in. So I think that's a much easier and more effective way to kind of do the same thing. So I stay away from data tables. You could also start to approximate, a two variable data table. You could have two formulas here. So if I wanted to, I could use the data table, and here it says if you want like another column, right, just create that column to the right and keep building it. So if I wanted to, I could again put in that financial function. And my rate is going to be that divided by 12. Number of periods is going to be that times 12. Present value is going to be that. And future value is going to be that. But let's say I want my value to be 200. I'll just enter it manually, right? And then if I wanted to, I could turn that entire thing there into a data table. And my row in my column input cell is interest rate. There we go. And there, it recalculated it. So now I've got it for different amounts, and I'm really starting to approximate this two variable data table. Here I put in the payment function, and I'm referencing the rate right there, E9, the number of periods, E8 right there, E10 right there, which is the amount. So it's just the payment function referencing all those variables up there. So I'm going to highlight this entire table, go to what if analysis again, choose data table. Well, what's my row input? Right? Well, the interest rate is what is kind of going into that, and then I want it to look to that row right there to give interest. What's my column input? Well, it's the amount. Well, that's what's going into that formula there, and I want it to look to the column here. And there we go. So kind of nifty. It did it pretty quick, but actually you have to have it laid out just like this for it to do it, and it could take a long time to just get it to work just right. So the other way that I would do that would be I would just create a payment function right here, financial payment. My rate is going to be equal to that divided by 12, and my number of periods is going to be equal to that times 12, and my present value is going to be equal to that, and my future value will be equal to that. 421.60, and now let's just compare that to here, and I have a different figure, and the reason I have a different figure is because that should actually be 12 there. It should be 30 years times 12. There we go, 421.60, 421.60. Now I want to be able to copy this formula all the way down over here, so I'm going to use a mixed reference, and I'm going to click that just so I can look at it. And you can look at the color coding here. At E10 for the 30 there, I want that to always be constant, so I'm going to press F4 to make that always constant. This F11, well, as I move this formula around in here, I need it to always stay on row 11, but the FGH can change, so I'm going to make row 11 constant. And then this 100,000, that 12 over here, as I move this formula all around down over here to the right, I always need it to stay in E column, the E column, so I'm going to make the E constant. Hit enter, copy that, and then highlight this entire area and paste it, and I have the exact same number, 662644, 662644. So I think using mixed references is actually a better way to do it, because you can look at any of these cells and see what's going on, whereas this is just kind of obscure a little bit. It takes a little bit of a different type of mindset to figure that out. So that's data tables. I stay away from them. Now you understand a little bit about what they are and how to use them. So you can say, hey, yeah, I know about data tables. And you could also say, I just like to do it manually by hand, because I think data tables are kind of obscure and difficult to work with. All right.